There's nothing like a free patch to get you interested in playing some old games on new hardware. Insomniac are making a habit of this with their updated patch to Spider-Man last year, boosting that mixture of that ray tracing mode into performance mode, and here they're going right back to 2016's superb Ratchet and Clank, which I covered in depth, including a retrospective look back on the PS2 and the PS3 version, which you can see the link below and on screen if you want to go back and remind yourself how great this series of titles were. But it was also a title that ran at 30 FPS, as Insomniac famously gave up the 60 FPS dream as they realised no one really cared and were more interested in those beautiful visuals. And that is exactly what we got on the PlayStation Pro.
Whoa, that is a lot of bad guys.
Now, it's a cliche that's used a lot with a game looking like a Pixar movie, and even I've used it, but this generally looks like a DreamWorks or Pixar movie in that style. The animation, the fluidity of movement, shadow casting light sources, huge and abundant use of alpha effects, water particles, and lighting that really amplifies the overall visual quality. And really, it's a standout title even now in terms of the PBR based materials and the smooth, fluid movement. One of the things that was quite impressive from the title is the heavy use of alpha effects and particles that really aren't cut back to the usual lower resolution buffers you would normally expect of a title that swamps the screen with so much. And even on the Pro, when it received a patch close to around launch, it bumped up that quality and resolution from the 1080p standard on the PS4, here showing a 1440p peak with that temporal injection technique they used in all of their games, including the superb Spider-Man, which pushes it up to a native looking 4K. It uses a jittered pattern to take two frames, merge them together, and it actually does result in a much higher resolution in terms of pixel counts, but obviously fast movement or camera cuts, you can see it drop. Now, one area here is in the cutscenes, it can drop down to 2304 by 1296, and this is fixed in the engine code. It's not a dynamic scaling solution, but this can then go back to 1440p, so it's probably a solution to jump over to the cutscene to keep the image quality and the buffers down a little bit, and then it builds back up to 1440p. It's not inherent of the performance level of the consoles at all, and that obviously comes over with the PS5, and this runs exactly the same, which means at points here when the cutscene flips you get that lower resolution and then it goes back to a 1440p base, and that's exactly the version you've got on the PlayStation 5. There is no difference whatsoever. Now, this version does mean it solves a lot of the issues I covered in my original PS4 analysis with that shimmery movement on thin edges and specular highlights, but generally this is exactly the same as what we saw recently when I covered the Xbox patches for backwards compatibility. And just like those games, this is all around the engine itself. Insomniac's engine has always supported 60 FPS, obviously goes higher than that because it does support VI titles as well, and therefore they're able to go back to the engine code and literally turn on or turn off that half refresh rate of 30 FPS, 33 milliseconds, and that means the whole game can then run freely up to 60 FPS, and that's exactly what happens here on the PS5, and everything else is exactly the same as the PS4 Pro. There is no difference at all, but that boost to fluidity from that 60 FPS leap, which you can see here, makes a significant difference. The only standout here is obviously jumping from the cinematics. Now you see the difference in quality from that 30 FPS higher quality mode in the movies, the pre-rendered videos, and then over to that smooth, silky 60 FPS version in the game in the real-time cutscenes. What I find really impressive here is if you look at the pre-rendered cutscenes that are used in this version, they use ray tracing on Clank himself, and you can see some of the elements, and this is now carried over to the latest version of Rift in Time, which is coming on the PlayStation 5, and that's running in real time on the PlayStation 5. So that's a massive leap in terms of quality from one generation, and certainly in techniques that bring games ever closer to that offline pre-rendered stuff you've seen in films. Ray tracing is the last bastion in terms of that leap from offline renderers to real-time renderers in games. Not only is Ratchet & Clank a title I'm really looking forward to, it actually manages to surpass the pre-rendered stuff in the older title, and that is an impressive generational leap. But it's one of those things to get excited about, and I'm really looking forward to just how far Insomniac can push this engine and the new hardware in a few months' time. But in the here and now, there's no better way to get people excited about a brand new entry in the series than release the old one for free. That's right, if you've got it on PlayStation 4, you can just get it for free anywhere. The update is free anyway. If you don't already own it, you can download it anyway on their store. And then playing it at 60 FPS does add a lot more to the game. It was already a high-performing title anyway. with it having one of the best input latencies for a 30 FPS title in my previous coverage on those, and it's even smoother and faster here at 60 FPS. So it's a great update, a free patch, you can't say fairer than that. And if you haven't played the Ratchet Clank titles in a while, there's no better time now on the PlayStation 5 to jump back in and enjoy these new delights and this beautiful title as we get ready for that big upgrade in the Rift in time, that again will have a 60 FPS mode, but that will likely mean the sacrifice of ray tracing, or will it? As we saw with Spider-Man, they managed to put both of those together, so I wouldn't be so sure that Insomniac can't work their magic again. They are quickly becoming a standout team for Sony and pushing themselves further and further forward in terms of just how expansive their engine is, their technical expertise, and how much value they're adding to games over and over again that you might have in your back catalogue. So just to wrap up the analysis, as you can see so far, there is absolutely no performance issues here. As expected, it's a completely locked 60 FPS. There's a huge amount of headroom here, and remember, it is pushing twice the amount of pixels at the same time as the PS4 Pro. It is the same resolution, and like I say, this is literally backwards compatibility. But again, expectations need to be kept in check. It's an update for 60 FPS, it's no more. And that also comes in things like loading. It's almost identical to what it was on the PS4 Pro. It's already a very, very fast loading title anyway. You can see examples on screen. So there's no massive difference between the two. It's almost seamless going from one section to the next, and dying is a couple of seconds away. So it doesn't need a huge amount of work. So Insomniac's engines still carry over well on older hardware, and they're going to do even better on newer ones. Anyway, I hope you guys and girls enjoyed this analysis. If you did, then please like and subscribe, and obviously share, because that really helps me immensely. But for now, I'm out, but I'll be back very soon with a big analysis I've been looking at earlier this week, which will be up on the channel cross-platform, which hopefully has some interesting information, and it has been one requested by a lot of you guys and girls. So anyway, that's it. Please subscribe, share, and all that good jazz, but I'll see you on the next one.
Awesome. Want to do it again?
Okay, let's see what we got here. Well, you look about all fixed up here. Now promise me you'll get that infobot to Captain Quark.
I promise. Thanks for your help.
No problem. See you in the next reboot.